All right, cyber traders, welcome on back here this Monday, June 7th, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. Welcome on back, as always, for our afternoon meeting. Great to see Donald, Gene, Michael, William, Stefan, Leda. Pleasure as always from her, and great to see everybody can hear me loud and clear from the trading room. Great to see you all, and for all of us on social media, Facebook Live and YouTube, welcome on back. So you got me from the morning. You're sticking with me here for the afternoon. Let's see what we have to work with going into this market close. Right away, we'll start with the stock on the screen here to begin. The Clover stock, Clover Health. They were a SPAC going into the end of last year, one of those special purpose acquisition companies. I may as well say, just to start this meeting, if you could hear a little background noise, it's my AC in my home office. I forgot to turn it off right before I started. So bear with me if you happen to hear that. But Clover, we ended up seeing them make a pop. I mean, as soon as the market opened up, it felt like, I mean, really right out the gate, maybe one little pullback, but that was it. Ended up trending up beautifully after breaking above resistance off of 950 set from the pre-market. Hey, this wasn't one that we had on our morning list, but it's one that we've been following over the last 6 months at least, and certainly over the last week straight with all these Reddit Wall Street bet type stocks moving up, the heavily shorted stocks, so to say. And Clover has been heavily shorted, at least going into this year, even as recent as the last couple of months. I looked on certain websites that grade stocks by short interest, and this has been at the top. So no surprise to see this, continuing to squeeze up with the others at least. AMC moved up today, BlackBerry moved up. Most of them ended up having a nice pop after the market opened up. For where this is at right now, taking us into the afternoon, I'm going to put this on our list. How could I not? It feels like, stock that's right around $10, $11, great liquidity, good spread for right now, and has had a good spread. I would say 1150 is your major resistance. I would assume for there to be an even bigger order that's currently showing today, actually right off of 1155, 1156. I think that's the penny high, but you could actually see about like a 12, 13,000 or so share order here, 11,500 at 1155. So that might be more of a backup resistance actually to what's on the order book at 1150. Now, either way, we're going to put this on our list, likely just check it out at the end, just to show what it looks like at the end of this meeting. But we ended up doing really well from earlier this morning, folks. I had a really big watch list taking us into the market open. We're not going to trade and call out every one of those stocks at the same time. A student like Lori might be following BNGO, while someone like Bill might be following AHT, while Monica might be following BlackBerry. I'm just rattling names off, but it's just to say we ended up having a really good morning, largely from said morning watch list. But we ended up finding others, of course, like this Clover, BNGO to start. We're going to start with this one to begin. I mean, outside of CLOV, but this one I called out right before I pressed the start button for this meeting. We ended up seeing this tease a breakout over 1150 going into this afternoon, and that was where we had a lot of orders from the ask earlier after the market opened up. So for what it's worth, this stock really didn't take any time to break out, right out the gate here. Ended up taking off as soon as the market opened up, roughly from 740, 750 level, all the way up towards just about that 850 price. And, you can see it's had a tough time with that level, at least heading into the afternoon, the early afternoon. Ended up leading to a continued move going into the late morning as it broke out higher. But, you can just see what happened here. The volume bars died off. The volume traded per minute dwindled down, and I say it all the time. I say it every meeting here, at least, in the afternoons where you have me doing this meeting every day. But it's to say when the volume dies off, so does the stock. And we ended up seeing the momentum on this uptrend die off as the volume gradually waned down minute by minute. For right now, I'm not in this trade. I was in this just a moment ago from 851. I ended up getting out exactly break even. I think that's just more from seeing this make a weaker move so far off this price level. I wanted a lot better of a pop off 850 here so far. So it's not to say that can't happen. I mean, it might just happen as soon as I turn away from this stock. But if 850 is such a big volume level, well, when we see big volume levels get filled, we should just get a pretty big move shortly after, right? Well, tick-tock here. This thing has been over 850 now for a number of minutes. Why haven't we seen this make a big move up? So perhaps that will come soon enough, but the more we hope and wait, the less likely that actually happens. So I'd rather honestly follow a stock like CLOV here so far compared to Bingo, although both are going to be on our list. Bingo looking a little bit slower right now off the 850, but still hopeful that we'll catch a run on that. Meanwhile, CLOV, I said CLOV here because obviously I just showed it, but this is making a much sharper run up to the major resistance at 1150. 1150 here has been a really strong level across the afternoon. So if we're going to see this big volume level break right now, and I say that for Leda and Lori and Donald and Michael and William and everyone else here in the cyber group room, at least, while I talk, keep your eyes on this trade here, the CLOV stock off the 1150. All right, so we ended up doing well on both. We ended up doing well on top percent gainer. Also, the RMED trade. This one was more from pre-market than after the open. Granted, it did pop and make the slingshot type of move that you would have wanted. Ended up re-breaking above resistance off of 7 to allow that to happen. And you could just kind of see from the late morning, early afternoon, this really didn't even hit 7. I think this just hovered right over 7. Perhaps its opening bell print across the morning, but man, it ended up leading to this second squeeze back up to actually break a new high here. And, it's still hanging out near the highs right now. So I'm going to put this back on our watch list, actually, the RMED stock. I forgot the news on this, and normally I'd play ignorant and not look up the news, but I'll tell you, we don't have class this afternoon, and I'm not going to do this for every stock, but I'm actually interested. I forgot the reason why on this, but oh, it's the worst. Oh, no. So it goes to show that you don't need to have news, I guess, in order to see a stock fly up, 82%. Benzinga Pro reported at 10 o'clock this morning. I thought there was news that I copied and pasted here. I guess it was for another stock, but RMED trading higher on a normally high session volume, not seeing any company-specific news to justify the price action. Yeah, that's all I got. So I thought there was news. I thought it was like a pharma deal or something. I guess I'm wrong. Either way, pushed up after the open, pushing up right now. For as much as this stock dropped off from last year, it was like a $60, $65 stock, in April, March of last year. See it dive all the way down towards sub 5, sub 3. That's what I said just, 8 hours ago here in this meeting. So to see this make the day over day move is not surprising. And we weren't really following this as much, at least back from Thursday last week. I know it caught our eye on Friday, but to see the stock continue to pump up and up and up and up and up, at some point, this is going to come crumbling back down. The way it's looking right now on the intraday chart here across the afternoon, I mean, if it could break over 9, I feel that there's a very good chance to see this just continue to go. That's if it could break over 9 again, because if it doesn't, then we might see a very sharp drop-off at least before any sort of move back up. Point being, you just don't want to be caught on the tail end of this move to see it just dump all the way back down, as it's been known to do so in the past. So I'd be interested in this trade to see if this can make a higher low and a squeeze back over 9. I'll put it on our list still, just to be very mindful of what Benzinga Pro even listed. They said it was a low float stock. There's no news out there at all to justify this move up, but for a low float stock that's being pumped up, it's not just going to get pumped up forever. Look at AMC, look at BlackBerry, and those are not low float stocks. I say that because the low float stocks are even more dangerous. It makes it even more difficult to try and get out at your price. So you got to be careful on this trade here. All right, so I'll tell you, we'll just jump from top to bottom now at this point. We did have a couple of others that we ended up calling out. Those that actually led to a good run or two, like Atos here. And I'll go over that move just when the time comes. BIIB, I want to give a shout to one of our students. I forgot who it was at the time, and I hope they reveal themselves again. But they ended up mentioning here at the time that BIIB came off of news with Alzheimer's prescription or drug. Some huge advancement on that. Actually, I got it from Alan R. He wrote, BIIB was halted on news pending FDA approved first Alzheimer treatment in 20 years. He wrote that, just prior to 12 p.m. Eastern time live inside our cyber group room. He said the stock will reopen and be very volatile, probably too expensive for me at the time. But nonetheless, man, look what happened at 130. Alan sure was not wrong. Off the news led to a huge pop. Practically doubling in price, and then obviously the drop off here. It's definitely pretty expensive for a day trade. So if you're interested in this stock more as an options play or swing, that's for you to figure out on your end. We're not going to really follow this at all here heading into the afternoon. NEXT, nice push at least from earlier this morning. This chart looks so messy, but the level that I was watching it off of, and I took my eyes off this once the market opened up, or at least shortly after. So I got to say, thankfully, I avoided all of this crap here where it was just shaking around and really tight. I watched the breakout off of $3.20 right at this point, and that's where we ended up catching it. So for all the BS and the consolidation that this thing had after the market opened, it actually led to a nice little push. It's still over that 320 price that I was calling out back then. And I guess if it can get a little bit closer to the highs, I don't mind giving this a second look. I'll put it on the side for right now, this next stock. And that's right, Robert from YouTube commenting on that CLOV stock again, just breaking over the 1150. I told you folks that should lead to a nice push. Oh, I ended up skipping a bunch of these. Oof, my apologies here. Sorry, I said I was going to get to Atos here, number 7. It's trying to make another move back up, but hey, this one ended up doing most of its work after the market opened. I put this on our pre-market watch list even really early this morning. I probably should have held off on putting that on the pre-market list. I was hoping to see at least the beginnings of what could be this type of move, and we didn't really catch that in pre-market, but boy, did this not disappoint after 9:30. Ended up popping, right away. Ended up building a support off of pre-market resistance, practically off of 5, and then ended up building a trend off the lows there, just pushing up across the morning. It just doesn't get any better of a play than this. I guess the only way it gets better is if it just moves up more or just moves up even steadier, but it's tough to look for more or look for better when you see this chart here across the first, hour and 15 minutes across the day. And, right at 10:30 Eastern time, we teach this just in our beginner course, the phase 1 stock course. And, it's not as if the market makers out there have their stopwatch looking for the Fausto Pugliese 10:30 reversal time. They don't. But we teach this in our class around 10:30, give or take a few minutes. And of course, here it was right on the nose at 10:30. But man, this thing sure reversed or fell off right at that time. Ended up peaking right off the high at 635 and dropped off sharply from there. The stock is shortable. So although I didn't take it as a short, it crapped out the other way briefly and provided that opportunity. Right now, heading into the afternoon, it's trying to grind back on up. So alongside that next stock, I'll kind of put that on the side. I'll come back to both of those just at the very end. All right, LMNL pre-market stock. It wasn't on the pre-market list, but we were watching this going into the open and ended up making for a very shaky move here at first. This wasn't like the stock I was watching right out the gate myself. I told you folks the two that I was watching. It was the bingo and then the other one I don't think I'd get to on the gainers end here, but the workhorse stock. Those were my two main focuses, like literally at 9:30 Eastern when the market opened up. You adjust quickly after those stocks make their moves and you make your money. But, at least going into the open, the LMNL, that was on the, morning list. It wasn't the stock that I was watching right out the gate. So fortunately, I can say I avoided this crap and, it made a small push up, but failed to break out, higher from this peak in pre-market, came right back down. And that was it. Really the volume died off once support broke right here. Uh-oh, just be careful, folks. Actually, that CLOV stock that I had mentioned, it looked good, and it did, but it pulled back. It pulled back below the 1150. So again, where we're talking about seeing a big volume level get filled, we should see a pretty big move after. So if CLOV doesn't make that pop and run off 1150, I'd be a little careful. We'll come back to that stock at the very end, though. All right, so Bingo's on our main list. It's grinding on up. As I've been talking, it's been trying to push off that 850 level. So, for Bonnie and Norman, that ended up taking a couple tiny losses off the first, retest of resistance here. I told you folks to watch out for the second chance. And fortunately, although it didn't make like a volatile fast pop, it has held over 850. It's been moving on up. So I hope that you folks got back in right off that 850. It's still not out of the doghouse just yet, but nice start off that 850 at least here. We'll keep this on our list. There we go, Norman. He says in the trade right now. Good. All right. So hopefully that makes a nice pop for us, soon enough. The IGC trade, speaking of pops, and I got to just do this because it's in the back of my head. Every time I see this stock, I look at the daily chart. And I don't look at this. And I don't look at this. These moves were expected back when they happened. And I say that because, well, that's because this happened back in 2018. And this was the first pot stock back at that time to make this type of short squeeze move. Before the Reddit trades and AMC and BlackBerry and a yada, yada, yada. For all of us here in Cyber Group at the time, just to rattle off a couple of names, like for Aleda and Grant, and perhaps plenty of others, like a Tony C. I see here in the chat board, or Michael D. in the trading room here as well now. Hey, you folks were here during this time. I know you were. So I know that you remember this move when this IGC stock was the first pot stock at the time back in September, October to make this huge pop from like 2 all the way to 14 plus. Let me ask you folks, any other pot stocks that you remember off the top of your head? Later right away. First the punch there. Tilray. And again, you look at the daily chart for Tilray, you could see it exploded back in January, February here with the Reddit stocks. Broke out from 25 up to 65 and back down. Well, when that happens, we knew that type of move is possible. I say that because look what happened back in 2018. Right? So I don't think I need to elaborate any further, but IGC, it's exactly why I'm excited to follow a stock like this right now. It's not at the highs. It peaked earlier, pulled back. So maybe I will just kind of put this on the side for right now. But if this doesn't move today, I'm still going to keep it in mind and keep it on my side list going into tomorrow morning. We'll see what happens. Maybe check out the pot sector ETF MJ in just a bit. I got Leeds or Leads, Semi-Leads Corporation, however you may pronounce the ticker symbol, ended up making that big type of drop off after the market opened up. So this played out pretty much as exactly how I thought it could go. Granted, I guess it could have popped up one more time before the dump off happened, but again, just look at the daily chart. Can you just keep expecting a stock to pop up day after day after day? And again, we're not looking for like just green in a row, but to see this stock explode from early last week from 10 and it topped off in pre-market or after the open today at 30. I mean, of course, we saw AMC make an even bigger move percentage-wise in that time, but we can't get spoiled. We can't get greedy and spoiled like that, because if you assume the same to happen on this lead stock or leads, and you jump in at the right place just at the wrong time, you're done. It's a wrap. It's game over. So it's got to be careful there. Gevo, nice pop earlier today in Gevo, and it's like, this thing seems like it's never going to drop. That's not financial advice. Obviously, it did drop and pull back here a couple times, but has since recovered, and it's at the highs going into the afternoon. So it's one of those where I just ask, how could I not? Maybe the same with NNDM. Nope, not nearly as much, actually. All right, so Gevo, we'll put on our list here. I'll make the cut. All right, let's see what else we got here, folks. We'll just skim down the rest of the gainer side here. Bunch of other familiar names. We got Skills. We got OCGN. Look at this thing go. Nice. Pushed up earlier today. I didn't trade this, although I certainly wish I jumped in at some point, perhaps off the 930-ish top here. But nonetheless, beautiful move. No surprise that OCGN can make this type of move if it wants to. If the smart money wants to push it up, just look at the daily chart. Just seeing the pops and the moves that this stock has had across the last 3 to 4 months, and it's still at the highs right now heading into the afternoon. So easily enough, alongside the Gevo, alongside hopefully Bingo, is that I guess is still over 850, but definitely OCGN. Put this on our main watch list near the top of our list here for now. All right. Couple of others here too. And we got plenty more. FUV, Skills, GOED. GOED is something I want to jump to right now, actually. It ended up popping before, but just pulled back. This stock was down like 85% going into last week. And then going into Friday of last week, it ended up trying to make this like move up, gap fill opportunity, short squeeze, dead cat bounce type play, however you may name it. Again, just look at the daily chart. It's a gap fill at a minimum. But, to see this stock pop today, we were hopeful to see this try and make a fraction of that gap fill. And it has so far. So it's just taken its sweet time to make its move from 275, 280-ish up to 325. And, you would have expected a faster move or for that to happen already, for it to already dump off. It's trying to tease us here. It's still somewhat near the highs or close to the highs compared to where it had opened up. I don't know. I feel like the volume's been dying off on this. And I just told you what happened the last time on, I think it was the RMED stock. When the volume dies off, so does the stock. So I don't know. Maybe I'll come back to this at the end. Again, we have just as many stocks on my side list, so to say, compared to the main list. Yeah, it's better than Friday. I think Friday, I went through the whole gainers and losers list in full. I had like 3 stocks on what I would call the side list and 0, Z-E-R-O, on the main one. So I think this is better than Friday's list so far, but let's see what else we got. U1 here, FCell. FCell I know has earnings Thursday morning on the 10th. Pushing up pretty nicely here, right? Ended up running from earlier, but making its push right now. So Maybe I'll jump to plug quick here. PLUG, it's making the same type of move. I'd rather trade the cheaper one, but you could kind of tag them side by side. Maybe I'll check out some of the EV stocks here too, like Nikola or Neo. Nikola doesn't look good. Neo looks pretty flat, just looking at the 5-minute chart. Now the 1 minute you could see there. All right, we'll pass on those. Let's hop over to the losers list here. Not a whole lot that's down big, not a whole lot that's shortable, so skip over those. Oof, what happened to Canon today? Jeez, I didn't even write Canon down on my notepad today. It wasn't even on my side list where it probably should have been, but unless if you were going short, which there was a great opportunity after the open, but man, this one flew under the radar pretty much. Ended up dropping off across the market open today. You know what? Actually, I'm actually a little underprepared for this meeting. I should have shown my Bitcoin chart at this point as I showed it going into the weekend. And I don't have it up right now. Is Bitcoin taking a bit of a bath right now? A bit of a drop off? And not really. I mean, it's dipping a slight bit, but not really to explain this 12.5% drop on Canon today. This is the Bitcoin chart, 15-minute graph. So you could just see going into today, dropping, but that's like nothing compared to what we've seen, a couple weeks back and moves on the way up too. So granted, you might see Riot and Mara drop off, but nothing really too bad. I mean, it was at 36,000 this morning, and they're at 35.5 now. Mara not doing a whole lot really there. Riot, same thing. You know what? I'm actually pretty curious. So I did it with RMED. I'll do it with this one here too. I just want to see if there's any news on the Canon trade. I know that there was earnings, I think a couple weeks back or a week back on June 1st. They ended up reporting earnings. There's no news on this stock right now. There was nothing from Benzinga Pro going from the weekend into this morning. Pretty interesting, at least, to see it drop off as much as it did. Catches my eye. We're not going to put this on the afternoon list, but definitely a side list stock going forward. I'll definitely remember this move for tomorrow morning. All right, let's see what else we got. The ARIC trade. What a disaster. What a disaster this move was. And, I can't say that I'm surprised. I say that because, well, let me ask everyone here inside Cyber Group. What's the trend of this stock going into the market open? I'm not asking how much up or down it was percentage-wise, but going into the market open, looking at my 1-minute chart, is this stock trending up or trending down from 8:30 Eastern time? Down. And more often than not, it's not foolproof, but more often than not, after the market opens, a stock will initially continue in said direction. So if it's dropping and it's breaking through support and dropping off, then after the open, if history repeats itself, I'd say it's a wrap. So yeah, this was a complete dud. I, zero interested on this stock as the market opened up or once I saw support break, and thankfully I haven't really looked at it since. This one, not a whole lot happening there. The MGI, down big. It's on the losers list. It was down big in pre-market. I told you folks in pre-market, hey, if I want to, I can add this if I really wanted to. I didn't feel a need to at the time. Well, now the stock's at the low of the day. It has good spread, good liquidity. It is shortable for those of us on TradeStation. You know what? I don't mind slipping this on here at the end, this MGI stock. All right, let's check out VIPS, TAL. Not a whole lot happening there. My pesky scanner just refreshed on me. Where were we? TAL. There we go. Yeah, not a whole lot to write home about here. All right, so folks, I'll toss it to you. If there's anything else up, down, left, right, more than 5% that you would want me to check out, type it in the chat board here. Just checking out the pot sector ETF, MJ that is, and you can just see otherwise it's just coasting sideways. Not a whole lot really happening there, so I'm going to pass on this trade heading into the afternoon. Like the pot stocks altogether, I should say that is. From P Trader, and this was from before, but ACB, I was asking about the other pot stocks, and this just isn't doing it right now. From Nicholas, he was asking about the FSR trade. I popped earlier this morning. Nice trade from the morning. Good side list stock, as it has been. Just not a whole lot happening right now. I'd be careful on that CLOV off the 1150. It's still just pinning itself right under that price. So you got to see something big happen soon on this thing, I'd imagine. A&Y from Debbie. Yeah, definitely. This one is up 13%, so it's probably creeping its way up the gainers list as I was going down. So yeah, good call. Hopefully there's more left to this trade, but given the recent afternoon, volume and move up, definitely going to put this as a focus so far. So good call. I like that. All right, folks, I think that'll just about wrap things up for all of us here on social media, Facebook Live, YouTube. I appreciate you sticking with me here each and every afternoon. If you're tuning in from this morning, same to be said from earlier today. Again, Fausto will be back in the office, back on the stream going into Thursday. So you got me across tomorrow, you got me across Wednesday, and that includes both the morning and the afternoon. All right, so for all of us on social media, any questions, thoughts, comments, suggestions that you folks have? First, I didn't do this from the morning meeting, but I did from Friday afternoon. If you have any questions, feel free to send over an email right to my personal email address. My name is Josh Levitan. My email address is josh@c2trading.com. So, hey, maybe you're not interested in joining us yet live inside our trading room. Hey, maybe if you are, feel free to join us. Go right down to the link on the banner below. But if not, and if you have any additional questions before you sign on officially, feel free to send over a quick email right to me, and we'll be more than happy to help you out. All right, for all of us there right now, like Bonnie and Leda and Norman and Mike, I look forward to speaking with you folks pretty shortly from now. Just give me a quick moment. I'm going to copy and tweet the picks out. I know that Rich will be on the mic pretty shortly at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'll be back on shortly after at 3:30. All right.